Hello everyone. Once again, I would like to welcome all the viewers to this online class that is conducted especially for the class 10 students. Today we are going to continue on carbon and its compounds from chemistry class 10 textbook under the MBOSE syllabus. Last class where we were discussing about the covalent bonds and some properties of covalent bonds. Today we are going to do this next topic called hydrocarbons. First of all, we will get to know this word. What do we mean by hydrocarbons? This term hydro here stands for hydrogen and carbons for carbon atoms. So what do we mean when we say hydrocarbons? These are compounds of carbon. These are compounds of carbon which are composed of only hydrogen and carbon atoms. So these are compounds of carbons which are composed of hydrogen atom and carbon atoms only. So this is what we mean when we say hydrocarbons. Under this, we have what we call the saturated hydrocarbons and the unsaturated hydrocarbons. Now, first of all, let us have a look at saturated hydrocarbons. The hydrocarbons, they are called saturated when the bonds between the carbon atoms are only single covalent bonds. There does not exist any double covalent bond or triple covalent bond. But here there is only single covalent bonds between carbon atoms. So in example, in this case, we can have that, suppose we have this that here carbon is linked together with a single bond, but the other three valencies can be satisfied with hydrogen. As you can see here, the bond between these two carbon atoms, it is only a single covalent bond. Sometimes this saturated hydrocarbons is also called alkenes. Saturated hydrocarbons are also called alkenes. And we also have the unsaturated hydrocarbons. Unsaturated hydrocarbons. Here in the saturated, we have only single covalent bonds that are linked between two carbon atoms. But in the case of unsaturated, there exists double covalent bonds or triple covalent bonds. Here there are double covalent bonds and triple covalent bonds between two carbon atoms. We may have double covalent bond or triple covalent bond. Those hydrocarbons which have these type of bonds, they are called unsaturated hydrocarbons. So those hydrocarbons which have only double covalent bonds, they have one or more covalent bonds, they are called alkenes. So those compounds which have double covalent bonds are called alkenes. And those which have got triple covalent bonds, either one or more, those are called alkenes. So those compounds and those which have triple covalent bonds between the carbon atoms, they are called alkenes. And besides this, we also have those hydrocarbons in which the carbon atoms, they are linked together in a close manner. Those type of hydrocarbons we call ring hydrocarbons. And ring hydrocarbons can also be ring saturated hydrocarbons or ring unsaturated hydrocarbons. So let us have a look at those two more. Besides this, we also have here, in the case of ring saturated hydrocarbons, saturated hydrocarbons means only single covalent bonds. But in the case of ring hydrocarbons, which are saturated, we have carbons which are linked together in the form of a closed loop. So in this case, we require at least 3 carbon atoms, so that it will form a closed loop, and the bond between them are only single covalent bonds. And to satisfy these other valencies, here, because carbon has valency 4, the hydrogen atoms. And we can also have a case where there are 4 or 5 carbons, but these type of hydrocarbons, they are called ring saturated hydrocarbons. If we have a look at another example, we can also have this case where we have 4 carbon atoms linked together with single covalent bonds, and these other valencies are satisfied with hydrogen atoms, like this. And in the case of ring unsaturated hydrocarbons, means first of all they are unsaturated hydrocarbons, so there exist covalent bonds which are double covalent bonds. In this case, we have only double covalent bonds between the carbon atoms. And the case here, the carbon atoms again, they arranged in the form of a closed structure, and we have an example of this, what we call this, a benzene. And here the other valencies are satisfied again with hydrogen. This is called benzene, and in the in the molecular formula we have this, that C6H6. There are 6 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms. So these are some types that we have from hydrocarbons. Now we will move on to next topic, which is the IUPAC name of some compounds. The IUPAC name, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, it consists of 2 parts, and one part, it has 2 parts. One which we call the prefix, and the other one which we call the suffix. And here, first of all, we will do the IUPAC name for saturated hydrocarbons or alkenes. So first we will do naming of alkenes or saturated hydrocarbons. Here the prefix, it denotes the number of carbon atoms in the longest chain. And here we have this. Suppose the number of carbon atoms in the longest chain, suppose it is 1, then the prefix, we will have to start the name with this word, we call this meth. And if the number of carbon atoms in the longest chain it is 2, then the prefix would be N. And 3 will be prop, 4 B, 5 pen, 6 hex, and 7 hep, HEPT. And suffix, what will be the suffix? Suffix for, if I write here, suffix for alkenes, the suffix is this ANE. So with these two parts that we have following the rule of IUPAC name, we will try to name some compounds of alkenes. Now, first of all, let us take this one. The general formula of alkene, the general formula of alkene is CnH2n plus 2, where n is any natural number. So let us take the first case when n is 1. So when n is 1, we have C in place of n is 1, then H 2 into 1 plus 2, that is C only 1, and H is 2 into 1 2 plus 2, it is 4. So what will be the name of this molecule, of this hydrocarbon? So following this rule, first of all, here there is only one carbon atom, so the number of carbon atoms in the longest chain is 1. We will have to start the name with the prefix, and the prefix here is meth. And here, this is an alkene because there are only single covalent bonds. So for alkenes, the suffix is "ane". So the naming of this would be, the name is, because there is only one carbon, so meth, the prefix, and the suffix, because it is alkene, "ane". So it is meth and this suffix. So that's why the name of this hydrocarbon is methane. Now we will do for n equal to 3. Suppose when n is 3, we have, in case of n is 3, Cn, H2n, n is 3, plus 2. This is C3, 2, 3, 6, 2, 8, Ha. In this case, we have all the carbon atoms. They are linked together by single covalent bonds, 3 carbon atoms, and these other valencies are being satisfied with hydrogen atoms like this. This is the longest chain of carbon atoms. Here, if you count the number of carbon atoms in this longest chain is 1, 2, 3. So for 3 carbon atoms, the suffix or the prefix would be prop. So the name of this will start with prop. But as there are only single covalent bonds between any 2 carbon atoms, So the suffix also it is an alkane. That's why the suffix will be "-in". So the suffix would be "-in". So that's why the IUPAC name of this hydrocarbon is propane. Now we will do the naming of unsaturated hydrocarbons, which are alkenes and alkynes. So now the second one. Now we will do the naming of alkenes. For alkenes, the prefix would be the same as we have done for alkanes, but the suffix for alkenes in place of "-in" for alkenes would be "-ene", E-N-E. So the general formula of alkenes is CnH2n. Here n is running from 2, 3, and then here, suppose let us have a look at the case when n is 1. Why it is not possible? See, when n is 1, we will have, according to this formula, we will have C1H2 into 1, and here it will be CH2, or we can have, if we write this in the structural formula, it will be CHH. As you can see, the valencies of carbon are not satisfied, and hydrogen cannot form double bond with carbon. Hydrogen can only form single covalent bond. So in this case, we don't have the double bond, so it is not in the category of an alkene. So that's why this is not possible here. So for alkenes, the general formula is this, and n starts from 2. So let us have a look at the first number, that is when n is 2. So when n is 2, we have n is 2H2n, 2 into 2. So this is C2H4. So the structural formula is there are 2 carbons like this, and here is an alkene. So the carbon atoms are linked together by double covalent bonds, and these are the valencies. The hydrogen will satisfy that. So in this case, we have this hydrocarbon, and here we have 2 carbon atoms. So the name again here is prefix for 2 carbon atoms would be eth, ETH. So eth, and it will be followed by suffix following this rule. And for alkene, suffix is "-ene". So that's why we add this. So that's why the name of this hydrocarbon is ethene. We can also try for n equal 3, 4, 5. But now we will have a look at the naming of alkynes. Naming of alkynes. Here the general formula of alkynes is CnH2n minus 2. And here also n starts from 2, 3, and so on. Here we cannot have n to be 1 because as in the previous case for alkenes, we will have that n equal to 1 to be not possible here. You can try for that. And here for alkynes, the suffix is "-ane", Y-N-E, and the prefix will still remain the same. And here, let's have a look at only one member from this alkynes, and let us have a look at this when n is 4. When n is 4, then we have C4H2n, 2 into 4 minus 2, that is C4H2 to 4 8 minus 2 is 6. So the structural formula would be, first of all I write this 4 carbon atoms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here there exists a triple bond between 2 carbon atoms. That triple bond, it can either be here or here or here, and this type of property with this hydrocarbon, let me write this triple bond, it can either be like this, so this other valencies would be with hydrogen, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can also have this C 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, this hydrocarbon, it has this property, it has the same molecular formula, but it can have two different structural formulas. This kind of compounds, they are called isomers. Now, how do we name this? We name this in this rule that we have. So there are 4 carbon atoms, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the prefix is, for 4 we have bu. So the name will be bu, and the suffix for alkynes is yne. So yne. So this is the IUPAC name of this hydrocarbon, butane. And for now, we will stop here. And next class, we will do some more naming of different hydrocarbons. But for now, we will stop here. Until then, thank you.